Okay, so we'll just give people a bit more time to come through. We definitely had somebody, didn't we? And they haven't come through.
Yes, we've got four now, so on the bottom of my screen there.
Okay, perfect. We'll get started. So, welcome along to the postgrad pharmacy briefing around clinical pharmacy. And before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the Palawa Pakana of Lutruwita, the traditional owners of the land upon which we live and work. We pay respects to elders past and present as the knowledge holders and sharers in our community. We honour their strong culture and knowledges as vital to the self-determination, well-being and resilience of their communities. We stand for a future that profoundly respects and acknowledges Aboriginal perspectives, culture, language and history. So tonight we're going to cover why you might want to study clinical pharmacy, the course options that we offer here at the University of Tasmania, what studying with us will look like. We'll also talk about our partner scholarships, how you apply to study with us, and then you'll have an opportunity for questions at the end of the, we will address your questions as we go through. We have Ben with us tonight who will answer questions that pop up in the Q&A section. So please direct your questions through the Q&A section that you'll see and we'll happily answer those as we go through. Anything that Ben can't answer, then we'll defer to Colin at the end of the session. It is being recorded today, so anyone who has registered to attend will receive a copy of the recording and it will also go up on the website. So I'd like to hand over to Colin today. So Colin Curtin is a lecturer with our School of Pharmacy and he is going to be talking all about the fabulous clinical pharmacy course. So over to you, Colin.
Okay. Thank you, Justine. Um, yes, I was just going to give a very brief background on myself. I've been a community pharmacist for over 20 years and I've done a brief amount of hospital pharmacy. And for the last more than 10 years, I've been working at the University of Tasmania, both in a research capacity and now a research and teaching capacity. So during that course of proceedings, I suppose I fell into clinical pharmacy, which is where my research area was. And so teaching into that space was a natural fit for me, I guess. So I guess why do you want to study clinical pharmacy? There's quite a number of reasons. Firstly, hopefully you'll have a desire to broaden your knowledge, deepen your knowledge of a wide range of topic areas that we offer with our clinical units, renal and respiratory and a variety of others, cardiovascular, etc. And I'll talk about that later. Now, all our units are offered online, so some courses around Australia don't do that. The advantage of being a fully online course is that you can study from home or your workplace or whatever, or even on the train if you're traveling for an hour or two to work, for example. And so that can fit around the practicalities of your work-life balance a little bit better than having to be required to attend a particular place of study. So everything's available through online web pages with interactive content, videos, etc. There's discussion boards. There's live, I suppose you call it live, online Zoom workshops, much as what we're doing now, and they're also recorded so you can view them later in case you can't attend them. But it's also a pathway potentially to a higher degree by research. That's primarily aimed at those who wish to complete the full series of units that are involved with the Master of Clinical Pharmacy. Unlike the other shorter courses, the Master course gives you the opportunity to do a small research project, and doing research, having the skills of being able to do research, plus even better, if you can publish your research somewhere, that does put you in good stead for being looked at by supervisors to go further to doing a PhD, for example. Right, let's continue. I just forgot one more key reason. I'll add it to now. One more key reason why you might wish to study the clinical pharmacy courses, and it's a very important one for a lot of people, to be honest, is that your postgraduate clinical pharmacy knowledge, once you get the award nomination, the award of the graduate certificate or the graduate diploma or the masters, for many large health organisations around the country, you are entitled to a higher pay rate. So that again, for many people, is a additional carrot for helping you to desire to further study. So I did touch base on the three terms. We have got three courses which are nested, and we've got another slide that will show that in more detail. The graduate certificate is a short course which comprises 4 units of study and can be taken anywhere from half a year up to 1.5 years to complete. And in that group of study, there's one core unit which covers some clinical topics, but additionally it covers how you're able to find the answers to clinical questions. Where do you search your research from? How to use the medical databases and how to organise your thoughts and put your response to the clinician or the patient, depending on what's being asked. Graduate diploma, I see there's a chat question there, I'll come to that in a sec. The graduate diploma covers everything in the graduate certificate, plus additional study, and one of the additional core units is medication safety in vulnerable populations. And then there's a range of additional electives, which can include other clinical units that you haven't already done, but also include a whole range of electives from more of a governance and research aspect, which might suit your career path better. As examples, there's clinical governance in healthcare, introduction to epidemiology, introduction to public health, systems thinking in public health, health policy, economics, and advocacy. So these are different. These are units that are different from the clinical space, but depending on where you want to aim your career path, some of those units might suit your future directions better and are offered as electives into the graduate diploma and into the master as well. So the Master of Clinical Pharmacy, again, it's got a longer course duration. Again, it's fully online. And in addition to the material that's covered in the other courses, so this is on top of those, there's additional learning which requires you to do some kind of research. And there are two options in that space. One of the options is to do a small, what we call capstone unit, which is like an audit of processes, maybe VTE prophylaxis or medication reconciliation on admission as an audit of processes, or to do a larger research project over a couple of units, and that involves, I guess, more skill learning, such as putting together a research proposal, developing and submitting and getting approved an ethics application. That's quite a substantial piece of work in its own right. Doing the data collection, whether it be surveys or trawling records within the hospital or whatever it might be, and then writing your research up for both for the course as well as for a potential publication. And I noticed at the bottom here they've mentioned entry requirements. So you must have at least a Bachelor of Pharmacy from an Australian recognised course or some equivalent degree, whether it's been done within Australia or internationally. Ideally, we want you to have some practical work experience before you start this course. So you've got a current APRA registration within Australia, or if you're an international student, some equivalent internationally. And yes, that's that slide, I think. So what have we got here? So we've got the pathways. You can direct enter into any of the three courses. Thank you, because I think we could probably zoom forward on that. Do you want me to answer that chat question now or later?
So the question that's appearing in the chat is actually Ben putting the links to these three programs into the
Oh,
chat so
right.
students can go straight to the course and unit handbook. So we
Yeah.
will let you know if there are any questions as we go through, Colin. So
Yeah,
thanks.
sure.
No worries.
Okay. So the three sets of courses are nested or stackable. So and I generally would prefer students to, particularly if you haven't studied for a while or you're not sure that this will suit your work-life balance, you should nibble a small amount of the apple, I suppose, before you do try and eat the whole apple in one go. So I'm trying to be poetic there. So start off with the graduate certificate. That's 4 units of study. So it's not a lot of your time or, let's be honest, your money to see if this style of study suits your lifestyle and your work-life balance, etc. Once you have completed the certificate or in your last semester of completing the certificate, get ready to segue into the graduate diploma. So all the units that you've passed for the graduate certificate get allocated directly into your graduate diploma. So therefore, you only need to do another 4 units of study. It says two core units and two choice units. Um, I'll have to edit that. It's actually one core unit and 3 choice units in that second step. I missed that earlier. And then say you're getting towards the end of your graduate diploma, so you've done 8 units of study now, you can choose to stop there and exit, that's fine. Or if you're a bit more excited to do a little bit of research, you can then go into the master space where you're going to do some research. And um, there are some coursework research units, which are, I have to remember now. I think it's called Health Research Methods is one of the core units you have to do in the master space. There's an elective, and you can either choose to do a 25% loaded audit unit, such as I mentioned before. So you could audit the VTE prophylaxis that's being done in your hospital. You could audit medication reconciliation when patients are admitted, or you could do something similar on discharge as an example of an audit pathway, and that's more straightforward. You need to get workplace approval, um, tick the boxes for doing an audit, and that's a small project. And alternatively, as I mentioned before, you could do a bigger research project, which takes up 3 of the 4 units allocated in this spot. And that again takes a lot more time and effort. You've got to develop your research proposal idea. You've then got to usually apply for ethics. For most studies require ethics. You've then got to collect your data, and you've then got to spend time writing it up in a formal scientific fashion, both for the assessors of the units and for the potential to publish, whether it might be a journal or a workplace book club or for a poster presentation for the ADFAR conference or something like that. Yeah, I think that kind of covers what I want to say on that slide. So we've got fast facts. I've got to read this because I can't remember what was on here before. So yes, our staff are primarily located at the Sandy Bay campus. We do have some tutors and assessors who are located interstate as well as in Tasmania. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where we provide our materials and our talking from because it's accessible fully online, no matter where you are in Australia or around the world. The course involves, as I've mentioned, some core units and a variety of electives. And if you look at the links that Ben has popped in the chat, you can have a good look at what appeals to you there from the lists that are there. There are, yes, interdisciplinary units such as the public health units, some of which I mentioned earlier. And again, those are the sort of units that will just help to tweak or advance your career path in a particular direction. Perhaps you wish to go into a more administrative role or into more of a clinical trials role or something else. So some of those units may help you there. There are, so point 4, HECS partner scholarships. And there's a large number of health organisations around the country who offer scholarships. And for those who aren't familiar with the word, scholarship is essentially a HECS discount. So when you sign up for, I did have a list here somewhere. Let me have it. Where did I write it down? Instead of, I did write it somewhere, I've lost it. Sorry. Instead of paying the full price for a set of units, for example, the graduate certificate, full price would come in at a bit under $5,000. Depending on what your health partnership arrangement is, you'll get that HEX fee reduced potentially by thousands of dollars, which should be quite a benefit. Another thing to mention is that from 2026 onwards, we intake only in semester one. So the core unit that's applicable to the entire courses is CSA 731. You have to do that unit. That's available in semester one only. You can top it up with other electives, or if you're direct entering into the graduate diploma, you might want to do two core units in that semester, 731 and CSA 628, for example. That's okay, we can continue. All right, so each unit in the course may vary slightly, sure. I've just got to read what this is about. I always tell people that for each unit that you're enrolled in, try to allocate 10 hours of study time. That comprises reading the materials we provide you, links to additional reading material through the online pages that we have, watching or engaging with our online Zoom talks that we have, and of course, completing assignments and assessment tasks. I think for most units, there's typically around 4 assessment tasks. And again, for most units, that will comprise written assignment work. We also have, for many but not all units, a oral verbal interactive component. And they are going to be weighted more heavily as of next year, because we've got to be sure that it's you yourself, and you can express it with your own voice to us, that you know what you're talking about on the clinical topics that you're studying. So what else is there here that you might want to know? Yes, so typically for many units, but not all, you'll either have a once weekly or once fortnightly Zoom session. And again, they'll all be recorded. So if you can't access the online Zooms live, you can always watch them later. You can always also follow up by posing questions on the discussion board, or interacting directly with the unit coordinator by email, typically, or occasionally if needed by phone. And we respond usually fairly quickly, depending on how busy we are. Most of it is self-directed reading and interactive discussions, as mentioned here. The online platform is quite good. It's engaging and interesting. It has lots of pictures, videos, etc. within it. That should help to keep you entertained. And again, you don't have to sit there and do the entire set of contents in one sitting. You can come and go. You can watch some of it while you're on the train. You can watch some of it at night, or maybe if you're an early morning studier, you might spend an hour in the morning going through materials before you go to work. I've mentioned the assessment. Quizzes are on the way out now, so I'll have to remove that from here. But primarily it's through written assignments and live presentations. Yes, that's all on that slide. Okay, so students do study for a variety of reasons. Yes, career enhancement is one. Additional skills, researching clinical information to find answers to clinical questions is a core one, and that's often what's needed. But again, it can be learning how to research itself as a skill, learning how to write better and respond to questions. I mean, the communication skill is important. And the other advantages are that these skills that you develop may assist you in a pathway into a research degree, whether you want to do a PhD or a Master of Pharmacy or I think it's called Master of Medical Research if you want to do a pure subsequent research project. For those who work in the community, I think they find a bit more clinical knowledge may assist getting into the hospital space. And even if you don't, you can still find it useful with assisting with your medication review processes that you might undertake. Hospital pharmacists also, as I say, benefit from a higher pay rate and the skills that they learn. I was speaking to a director of pharmacy over the last weekend at the ADVA conference, and she said that she appreciates how the students who are doing the course are much more readily able to find the answers to the clinical questions that they get asked by physicians and much more quickly able to and confidently able to respond to those questions. Okay. Frequently asked questions. I've already covered number one, but we'll start again. For each unit, try and allocate 10 hours per week. I mean, it will vary. You might get by with less, but that's my standard answer that seems to cover for most people. And to extend from that, because I can say more about that. Oh, it's under point three. If if you're working full time, I would recommend no more than 2 units a semester. That's as much as most people can manage. There are processes if you have enrolled in 2 units a semester that by census date, which is about 3 or 4 weeks into the semester, if you find it's too much to handle, there's a process for dropping 1 unit of study at that point in time without any penalty to you whatsoever. If you're working part-time, you might be able to get comfortably do 2 units a semester or even 3 units a semester. I've mentioned online video tutorials, so we do have online live sessions. And for example, one of the units that I teach, I generally present a case study and go through some of the complexities around the medicines that I use in that case. And I throw out questions, and if the people attending can answer them, great. And if they can't, they can learn from it, and I fill in the answers for them. So that is points one, two, and three. Point four, do I need to commit to classes every week? Well, we don't have classes at all. All we have is usually once a week. There's this Zoom session for interactivity. And towards the end of semester, in some of the units, there'll be that requirement for you to present live to the tutor or unit coordinator. But there's no classes to commit to as such. Right. So I think I even talked about this somewhat. There are quite a lot of, I was listed down there as I was just reading there. If you search on the University of Tasmania website, there is a page that lists all the different health organisations around the country, and yours hopefully will be within that listing. And if it's there, then you'll get a scholarship or a discount for the HEX fees to make the course more affordable for you. Yes, that's kind of it. And you need to be, oh, sorry, yeah, it's all right. Keep going.
Sorry, Colin.
That's all right.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that slide before I rudely went to the next one?
Not really, no. I was going to look at the last point, but then I thought I can't really talk to that very well. So let's keep going.
No worries. There is quite a lot of information around the Commonwealth supported health partner employee declarations when you're enrolling in your course. So that information does get provided as you move through the assessment process. Okay, I think it's back to me.
Okay, sure. I'll mute
Thank you
for a
so
minute.
much for, we do have some questions that we'll get to in a minute, but I'll just talk about how you apply. So as Colin said, this program offers, or these programs offer semester one entry only, which is February. You can apply online. Applications are open now. So the address is there on the screen. You receive an offer if your application is successful, and we send that to you electronically, letting you know, notifying you of your offer, and you can log back into your application portal to accept your offer. After you have accepted your offer, you'll be able to enroll in the units, whether you choose to do 1 or 2 per semester. Ben has also put up in the chat how to apply, so there's a link there as well. And there also are online enrolment sessions for people who may need help or guidance enrolling. So we do have a couple of questions for you, Colin. The first one is when you were talking about clinical cases or scenarios, do students actually work on real life clinical cases and scenarios?
Again, it depends on the unit. Most of the clinical cases that we have across the clinical units are pre-provided or prepared for you. because they're designed to make you think and try and work things out. There are, I think, usually for the presentation assessment item, which is one of the last items in some of the clinical units, they may ask you to draw from your workplace a clinical case or process review or something like that. So yes, it's a bit of both.
And another question we've had is what academic and student support is available for online students?
Okay, so from my point of view, it is first and foremost the unit coordinator is probably the best first port of call because they're the one that runs the unit. They know what's in there. If you have concerns about understanding something or needing more materials or technicalities such as you're unwell or how to find other information around about the university, the unit coordinator is the first port of call to get in contact with, and that is again via email or via phone. Um, each unit has a unit outline which you get on the first page of hitting the unit, and that gives you our contact details and the technicalities around what's required during the course of study for that unit, discussions around when you're unwell, etc. So that's all covered in the unit outline. I feel like I'm going off topic from the question. Did I cover the question?
No, that was good. Yeah, no, that was good. It was around the supports for online
Oh,
students. So
yeah, sure.
I guess the
And
unit outline really does provide that first point of
it
call.
does. And additionally, I should log into a unit, but I haven't done that yet. When you do first log into a unit, apart from the unit outline itself, and I will log into a unit, hopefully it'll be very quick. Um, there are additional resources that links that you can get to within every unit to access additional learning support within the university. So I'll just open up one of these. Just give me a moment. Yes, so we have got um, a link called Important Guidelines and Support, and that covers a lot of the useful things that all students should know. Doesn't matter what course you're doing, what unit you're studying, about academic integrity, which means not cheating, about when you can and you can't use artificial intelligence. There's a link on the essentials of the Milo learning platform, the space that you'll interact with when you're dealing with the unit and reading and learning and dealing with the learning materials and submitting assignments, etc. There's even links on workplace health and safety, concerns and complaints, learning support, and further information and assistance links. So that covers everything. And that link to all these other links is available in every unit that you're in.
That's really good information. I think also to add to that, students can access and book appointments with people online. So you can also book them face to face if you're in Tasmania and close to a campus. But if you're studying a fair distance from a campus, you can book online appointments, Zoom appointments with our student advisors, our counsellors, and a whole range of support staff that are employed by the university to support you through your studies. So there's help um, in lots of different places, but your unit outline we often refer to as a Bible because it just includes everything. So it will have all those links in there. One final question is, are there opportunities to specialise in particular clinical areas while studying the courses?
Okay, so I guess yes, there is, because the clinical units alone cover particular topic areas. So that's a form of specialisation, and you can choose those topic areas as you build the course that you want to study. So, for example, at the grad cert level, you could focus on cardiovascular disease in one unit. You could focus on infectious diseases in another unit. You could focus on psychiatric and neurological disorders in another unit. So that's one way of helping to specialise somewhat. And as I mentioned before, the other way of specialisation when you go to the grad dip level is pulling in those other public health and governance units that might suit a slightly different career path. That's probably the main thing I have to cover there, I think.
Thank you. Just one final question. Are there opportunities to apply learning directly to my workplace? So for the student. And yeah.
Sure. Um, there's several ways that they could apply their learning to their workplace. And occasionally we do get feedback from students that said, oh, what they learned this week or that week was directly relevant right now. So that's one way. Like they've learned something clinically about oh, I don't know, drugs used in heart failure, and that was immediately applicable to that week for them. Um, the other way that's applicable is, as I mentioned from the director of pharmacy speaking to me, was that it does upskill you in the ability to find the information you need to respond to clinical questions more readily. I think it really helps frame your question, helps you organise the answer you want to prepare and to give that answer to the clinician or the patient or whomever it may be. Um, yeah, I think that kind of covers it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Colin, and thank you for attending today's webinar, everyone. And as I said, you will receive a copy of this via email and it will also be available online. So thank you all for attending. Big thank you to Colin and Ben, and we hope you all have a great night. Thank you.